All right, welcome everybody to this inaugural Common SenseIVORE podcast. Man, I'm jacked about doing this. I've looked forward to this for a couple of months now since I had the idea. I put a video out a couple of days ago, I don't know, about a week ago, talking about me doing it, and the response I got was pretty good. I was excited about it. So I'm jacked to be here and to be doing this and to get this started. Some of this is what we're going to talk about today. Y'all have heard before, anybody that follows me regularly. Some of you that are new or listening to this for the first time, welcome. I appreciate you coming in and hearing what I have to say. This podcast and why it's called the Common SenseIVORE podcast is because I'm a carnivore. That's the lifestyle that I have chosen to eat over the last 2 years, coming up on 20 months here. That has revolutionized my life, that has changed my life in a way that I couldn't imagine was possible prior to me doing it. Let me tell you my story. I was 52 years old and I was dying, and I had to do something about it. I was 303 pounds. I had lost my way terribly. COVID, coming into COVID, and in a period prior to COVID, I'm an entrepreneur, and businesses had been wrecked, and life had gotten to be a hassle, and there had been all kinds of issues that go on with life daily. I have bought and sold dozens of businesses over the years, and I found myself at a crossroads. I picked up and I moved myself and my family to Franklin, Tennessee from Portland, Oregon. And once here and once established, late November of 22, I found myself dying for a couple of reasons. I have cardiomyopathy, that is a 40% block in my left ventricle that showed up when I was 38 years old out of nowhere. Turns out it's something that you're born with, and it's just as simple as it sounds in layman's terms. That is, it's a growth in my heart. And so since I was 38, I've been on blood thinners. When I was 40, the AFib started in, and the A-flutter. AFib is when your heart goes, in my case, in the beginning, it was 235 beats a minute, and it would last for hours and hours and hours and just beat steady at 235. I'd go into the hospital, and they'd put me out and try to give me meds and cardiovert me. Ultimately, many times, y'all know what cardioverting is. Clear. We've seen it on TV. Boom, and away you go. Rarely did it work for me. Maybe about 40% of the time. I've been cardioverted, I don't know how many times, 10, 12 times at least. And so I battled that with a massive amount of meds, a med to slow my heart down, a med to thin my blood, a med to help control the blood pressure. It seems like every time I turned around, there was a new med that I needed to take to try to help deal with this affliction that I found myself with. When I was a kid, 19 years old, I fell off of a second-story forklift onto the cement on my back, and I had a metal dumpster come down and hit me right in the middle of my waist and broke my back. And so 17 different procedures later, combined with my heart issue, I found myself at a spot where I needed some help. I have not been able to walk to that point further than about 100 yards at one time, maybe not even that far, without sitting down. It wasn't that I had to sit down because I was tired, although certainly in 2022 at 300 plus pounds with the heart issues that I had, the back issues that I had, even walking was work. But the back pain was significant. I've been addicted to opioids on three separate occasions. And over that time, life over the last 20 years trying to deal with this pain from the back and all the back surgeries, none of which worked, the steroid injections. I've had electronic stimulators attached to my spine to try to interrupt the signal of the pain from the area in the base of my back up into my brain to stop that signal telling me that I'm in pain. My leg would go numb. I'm a pool player. I could only shoot 8 balls. I can tell you exactly how many balls in a row I could shoot. It was 8 before I had to go sit down because I would be sweating profusely simply because I was hitting 8 balls. So I would walk and I'd always have to find some place to sit down, either because the AFib was killing me or the A-flutter. A-flutter on the other side is AFib goes up here, the heart races, stays at 145, 200 beats a minute, whatever it is. For me now, it's 145. And A-flutter is when it goes 145, 65. in a beat. And the next beat feels kind of like, to me, like somebody just gave me a quick little jab in the chest, and it goes back up to 155. And it'll do that, and it'll go back and forth. Sometimes not that extreme, sometimes much lesser extreme. But those are the things that you're dealing with, or that I was dealing with my heart. I've had a heart surgery and have had multiple attempts to try to control it through all sorts of different medications. The worst of which is a medication that I'm on called amiodarone. And it is about the only medication that worked to slow my heart down when it would get into this rhythm and not allow it to go back once they fixed it, either through cardioversion or a massive amount of intravenous drugs when I'm in the hospital. And so there was just no fix for it except this drug. The problem with this drug is it's a drug that you give to 75-year-olds, not to, at the time, in my late 40s, because it eats your liver. It's harmful to your liver. It's a great drug for slowing your heart down. It's not a great drug for your liver. And so you don't want to be on it long term. And that's why we were scheduling thinking about another heart surgery coming into the end of 22. And then, just to be honest, and so I'm open on this podcast, and I want everybody to understand my story and my backstory. I want to make sure that I'm giving you the best ideas, the best evidence that I can, the best study research, what I look at to decide what I'm eating, when I cheat. If you follow me on TikTok, you'll know that I put everything out there that I eat, and whenever I cheat, I let you guys know. So I want to be honest about everything. And coming into late 2022, I was traveling quite a bit. And through that time, into November, I'm walking through the Salt Lake City airport, and I can barely get through it, and I'm having to stop every 25, 30 feet, literally, almost missing my planes as I'm traveling back and forth from Nashville, Tennessee. And the reality was, I was having a bunch of mini heart attacks. Now, to me, it felt like AFib just out of control. Takes your breath. It feels like somebody's going in and grabbing your heart and just twisting it. And so something had to be done. I get back. By the time I get home in late November, I can barely get out of my chair and go into the kitchen. So I go to the emergency room 2 months after I've been dealing with this, and finally it wore me down. And I go into the emergency room, and they said, I was admitted 22 minutes later. So I was in the hospital, admitted to the hospital 22 minutes later, and I was down almost 4 pints of blood. Doc says, that's crazy. You walked in under your own power. I mean, I was sick. You could tell. I had a color problem. I was messed up. And what had happened was, again, it happens to all of us, I guess, eventually, but I had hemorrhoids. And they were bleeding profusely, and I had no idea. I didn't pay close enough attention to understand. I know it seems impossible, but if you know my mindset, I just move on from everything. I don't let things get me down too much. I try to stay positive. I try to stay in charge. I try to stay on top of things. But sometimes when you have that mindset, it means that things will get away from you, or you don't give things the attention they should. It's a trade-off for sure. So I'm down almost 4 pints of blood. I'm in the hospital. They tell me what's going on, and I had never felt this bad in my entire life. I mean, I was at rock bottom. I was rock bottom professionally. I was at rock bottom physically. I was at rock bottom mentally. I was at rock bottom emotionally, and I'm not even a very emotional person. I had just hit rock bottom after years and years of kind of flying very high. 3 or 4 or 5 years in a row, just beat the hell out of me. Here I was at 303 pounds, dying. I laid in that hospital bed in the hospital here in Franklin, Tennessee, and I had an epiphany. I had a come into Jesus story, or a come into Jesus conversation with myself. And it said, I want to live. This is simple. I know this may sound dramatic, but it's true. I had headphones in, and I was sitting in the bed, and I just said, I want to live, and I'm dying. I was at the lowest point. I could hardly get out of that hospital bed. I certainly wasn't going to be able to walk out of the hospital without stopping twice. And this is no joke. The pain in my back would be so bad. My heart would give me so many issues that the idea of walking out of a hospital and into a parking lot to a car required 2 stops. And I was sick of it. I would go play pool where I play in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and it's on the 2nd floor. And there's about 8 steps that lead up to a landing, and then 8 more steps to go up to the 2nd floor. And I would stop on that landing every single time before I would walk up there. And even when I would get up there, I'd be out of breath, and I'd see all my buddies and have to pretend like I wasn't, dying inside because I couldn't breathe. So that's where I found myself in that hospital bed. And I said, enough. I want to live. I'm tired of dying. I got to find a way to live. And that way to live was a carnivore diet. I decided on the carnivore diet not because I thought that this was some magic pill to help me fix what ailed me and get me into shape. I didn't think that in the beginning. In the beginning, I approached it like a baseline. I have a business background, so I needed to find the problem. And in order to find the problem, this is when they wanted to fuse two of my vertebrae together and do another heart surgery. So I was incentivized, as well as laying there at 303 pounds, couldn't breathe, couldn't walk, miserable, dying. I was incentivized to try to find my own answers. So that's what I did. And carnivore, using the analytical brain that I have and the business brain that I have, and the experience taught me I need to go to a baseline. I need to find that spot at that baseline and run with it. And so that's where I said carnivore, protein and fat. I don't know if it's good for me. I don't know if it's bad for me. I shouldn't say that. My leanings were that this was good for me, but I had no idea how much I would come to disbelieve everything I had been taught about nutrition, everything that had been propagandized to me about nutrition, both from the medical field, from the pharmaceutical field, from the U.S. government, from public school system, everything across the board, beginning about the time I was born in 1969, has turned out for me to be a lie. But I had no idea at that point. That wasn't what was behind this. All of that information came later as I started to do my research because I started to feel so good. So I was just going to a baseline. So in that baseline, I told myself 4 months. You're going to go 4 months. And so in 4 months, I said, January 1st, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to eat 1,750 calories of sausage, eggs, and a 12-ounce ribeye every day. And you can, if you're following along and you want to do this, it doesn't have to be a ribeye, it can be any kind of meat, but 1,750 calories, about 65% fat, 35%, sometimes 70-30, somewhere in there, fat to protein. And I'm going to eat it until I got to my weight that I was shooting for, which was 235 pounds. At 235 pounds, then I told myself I will readjust, figure out what I'm going to do, but I'm not changing a thing until I get to 235 pounds. Here's what happened. So the first 30 days, nightmare. It's a nightmare. If you watch my videos, you know it's a nightmare. It's been a nightmare. It's going to continue to be a nightmare. If you're starting the carnivore diet and you have it easy, I am happy for you and I'm jealous as hell because this diet ain't for the faint of heart. And let me say, when I say diet, and through the course of this podcast, again, the Common SenseIVORE is about what diet in the context of what I put into my mouth. That is the food, the energy source the nutrients that I put into my mouth. It's not diet in the context of Atkins or keto or vegan or vegetarian or any of these other diets. I am simply talking about the food that I put into my mouth. That is my diet. My lifestyle is carnivore. That is my lifestyle. But what I fuel myself with is my diet. That's the food that goes in my mouth. So when you hear me say the word diet, carnivore is lifestyle. And so the first 30 days sucked because you're coming off sugar. And make no mistake, people, sugar is an absolute poison. It is poisoning you as we speak. Sugar is the equivalent of, and in some cases worse than alcohol, the equivalent of, and in some cases worse than hard drugs, right? Sugar is responsible for God knows how many, some say 10, 15 times the number of deaths of cigarettes. It is absolutely a legal poison, a drug being fed to the masses. And it's a scam that we'll talk about over the course of the Common SenseIVORE as we do more and more of these podcasts. But just to understand from my perspective, it is allowed and it is legal drug dealing by some of the most powerful corporations on the planet. If you don't believe me, very simply, I'll say, stop eating sugar. Let me know how you do. Stop eating sugar. Stop eating processed foods. Stop eating carbs if you want some idea. Because again, if it's not meat, if it doesn't come from an animal, chances are it turns into sugar anyway. So, but those hardcore actual sugars, corn syrup, things of that, processed carbs of any kind, processed foods of any kind, chemicals, all of the things that today we eat out of because they're in abundance. They're convenient. They're easy. They're cheap. That stuff's killing us, and it's addicting. So we are addicted to this substance and to these substances, processed foods. We're addicted to the price. We're addicted to the taste and sugars. Again, we're addicted to the price. We're addicted to the taste. And even worse is the syrups. And so when you're coming off of that, it's a drag. It sucks. And so you need to be ready for that. Getting through that first 30 days, it was right about 40 days. And I promised myself in that first 30 days, what I did is I read a book called Chasing the Scream about drug addiction, and I approached it like I was addicted to drugs. I approached it like I did when I was addicted to opioids on 3 different occasions, and I just said, this is what I'm going to do. Every day I'm going to live one day. One day. Just get through today. And I had to break it down that simple. Now, that's what worked for me. Everybody might have something different, but I had to break it down, man, because it was hard. It was difficult. And so I would tell myself, I'm going to eat that ice cream in the morning. I'm going to crush that ice cream in the morning. I'm just not going to eat it tonight. I'm just going to go to bed. I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm going to change my habits that I do at night, like sitting in my chair and watching television, that led me to go and eat. So I go for a walk. I went to many midnight walk, many a 10 o'clock at night in the dark, in the cold walk. But I was tired of dying. I was tired of being diseased. I was tired of being tired all the time and not being able to walk and not go Christmas shopping and not go out on Halloween and not go out and see my friends and not play pool the way that I want to, not stand up at a cocktail party or go to a meet and greet from a business perspective. Any of those things, the normal life that so many people appreciate, I was sick and tired of not being able to do it. And so I had that resolved. Didn't make it easy, but I had that resolved. I get through 30 days. About day 40, I can't believe how good I felt. I mean, it was like a light switch. And day 40 was amazing for me. All of a sudden, it was like everything started to disappear. For a good 30 or 45 days, I could feel the energy coming back. And I could feel the pain leave my body. Now, every day, the other thing I did with eating, as well as eating, is I walked. Sounds crazy, but I'm stubborn that way. And I walked. And the first day I walked a quarter mile, January 1st, 2022, I walked a quarter mile. It took me 24 minutes and I had to stop 3 times. Was it 4 times? I stopped a lot. Inside of a quarter mile that took me 24 minutes. It was a nightmarish walk. The pain was intense, but I was tired of dying, remember. And so the next day, and so I tucked my tail and limped myself back to my car. And I had planned on doing 2 or 3 miles, and I got a lousy quarter mile. I don't know why I thought I could do more. I just thought I could do more, right? I had this resolve that I was going to get out there and crush the world, and I'm going to get in shape. And life punched me in the face, punched me clean in the face, and said, back up, boy. There's some work to do here. So I licked my wounds, tucked my tail, back to the car I went, got my quarter mile in 24 minutes, got up the next day, and back out I went. Another quarter mile. And the next day, another quarter mile. And the next week, another quarter mile. Now it's getting easier. And the next week, and the next week, and all of a sudden I'm feeling better. And I'm doing a mile and stopping 3 times. And then 60 to 90 days, I'm doing 2, 3 miles, and I'm starting to feel better. Late April, I'm in Destin, Florida, and I had lost my phone in the ocean like an idiot. And my wife dropped me off at the Verizon store. It was 5.3 miles away from where we were staying on the beach. And I told her, because I'd been walking every single day, I was going to walk back. I'd never walked 4 miles at that point. I stopped 2 times, but I walked 5.3 miles. So in the space of not being able to walk on January 1st to about the 3rd week in April, where I walked 5.5 miles with multiple stops, 2 or 3, but not bad at all, I was on my way. And once I realized I could do that I was able to walk that far, the sky was the limit. I then started walking 4 miles in the morning and 4 miles at night, all the while eating 1,750 calories. I did that through May. But again, at about day 40 through about day 60, I could feel 2 things happen on this diet, on this way of eating, this lifestyle, this diet, if you will, the food that I'm eating. Number 1, the pain left my body. It started to leave my body. And every morning I was a little more pain-free. I would, like all of us, I was 53 years old, and you turn on your side to get out of bed, and you push yourself up, and you groan a little bit, and you throw, I don't know about you guys, but you inch yourself to the edge, and then just kind of push yourself up as you drop your feet onto the floor and gravity kind of takes over and you pray to God that you're not going to fall down. That was me. My back hurt so bad from sleeping all night that, again, it was just pain to walk to the bathroom to get ready for the morning. Your knees are stiff. Again, the back is stiff. The joints hurt. My elbows would be all jacked up. My shoulder was always jacked up. And I thought it's just getting older. I didn't do this to feel better from that perspective. I did this to get rid of the weight, to see what effect it had on my heart and to see what effect it had on my back. But within 40 to 50 days of not eating any sugar, not any carbs, not eating any processed food, and just eating fat and protein, no vegetables, no fiber, no nothing, just eating 1,750 calories, my life came back. Now, I still weigh 280 pounds, 275 pounds. I think I lost 15 pounds the first month, and I lost 10.2 pounds per month across 9 months. So I still had the pain, but I felt significantly better. I still was fat. I still was carrying all that weight. I hadn't put on a bit of muscle. All I was doing was walking, but I felt 100% better because of what I was eating. And right then, right about day 40 or 50, 60, somewhere now, I don't remember specifically, but the light bulb went on. And I figured out what I'm eating is who I am. I'm not old because of my age, the years that I've been on this planet. I feel the way that I do. I feel the way that society tells me to feel, and that I see that people feel in society. I feel as an elder person, if you will, on the back of the menu where you can order the 55 and plus. I get why we feel that way. It's because of that food that we eat. And when I changed out the food that I ate in a scant couple of months, I felt like $1 million. I can't believe how good I felt, and I was still 275 pounds. So I continued, 10.2 pounds a month. And some months, some weeks, I weighed myself every day. Some weeks I felt better about myself, and some weeks I felt worse. And the scale just kind of goes like this as you make your way down to the bottom, ultimately to get where I got. But it's not, I weighed myself every day because I want to hold myself accountable. A lot of people say don't weigh yourself every day. I think that's complete BS. You're in this to get healthy. You're in this to lose weight. You're in this to grow muscle. You're in this to become more athletic and to feel better. You got to know where you are. Those benchmarks that related back to the business side, you have to know every day what you're doing. And then you have to understand emotionally and mentally that it's not a race. It's a marathon, and it's going to take time. And so I understood that. And particularly when you start losing, I would celebrate every time I'd go into a new 10. So you come from 303 and you get to 299, and I jump up and down. And for 30 seconds, a minute, take a look at this, take a picture. And then at 289, you're like, okay, now I'm rolling. 279, oh, this is 269, right? And in between, I didn't care. I just 269, 267, 267, 267, 265, 263, back to 265. God knows why, eating the same thing, doing the same thing. And then 263, and then 260, and 259. And I remember 259 very clearly. When I got about 5 months in, I get 250, and I went up 8 pounds. Didn't make any sense. Late May, early June, I'm down almost, 50 pounds. And all of a sudden, I put on 8 pounds, doing the same thing. I'm even walking more at this point. So Ryan Achenbach, my trainer back in Portland, Oregon, gave me some great advice and said, eat more. So I did. I added 500 calories, same sort of food, protein and fat. I just ate more eggs and more steak. So I think I added a protein drink also at the same time. But now I'm eating 500 more calories. And let me tell you, it was difficult to eat that 500 calories, but I did it. And my weight loss took off. I went from 258 to 239 in 5 weeks. It was crazy. So I ate more. I added more miles, and the weight started running off of me quick. June, I start going to the gym. So I start pushing weight. I'm still doing 4 miles, no longer 8 miles a day. I'm doing 4 miles, but I'm really starting to feel good now. And my plan, which was to lose the weight and then start to put on the muscle, start to go back. I just wanted that platform. I just wanted that foundation, I should say, that I could grow onto, that I could build onto. I wasn't worried about doing anything until I lost the weight. I had a plan. I wasn't in a hurry. I was doing a marathon. I had a plan, and I stuck to that plan very, very well. In July, I'm hitting the weights full time. I'm doing my 4 miles a day, and I start a sauna. July, August, and I start a sauna. And in the first week of August, I weighed in at 216 pounds. I blew right past 235 pounds like it wasn't even there, and just decided to keep going because I felt so good. I ultimately hit 216 pounds in August. I had never felt better in my life at that point. And now a year later, and in a couple of weeks, here as we sit in September, I feel way better than I did in August at 216 pounds. As I sit here, I'm about 235, 236 pounds. At the time when I started weighing myself every day, I was 103 pounds of lean mass at 303-pound body. I am now 26 and a half pounds of lean mass in a 235-pound body. I anticipate taking that up to about 135 if I can. That's what I'm shooting for over the next 4 months. As I come into my 55th birthday, I'm going to try to add 7 pounds more of muscle somewhere in there, and just try to be in the best shape. I'm not bodybuilding. I'm not going out and doing anything crazy like that. I just want to lift heavy weights for 4 or 5 months and see how I feel and see if I can do it and see how my body responds and put on as much weight, as much muscle, I should say, as I can. And I'm flipping my fat to protein. Usually I'm about 65% fat. I'm 35% protein. I flipped that on its head now, and I'm doing the opposite, trying to really do what I can inside of that carnivore diet to add muscle onto my body. I'm eating, or I'm drinking, I should say, some protein drinks that are adding about 42, 43 grams of protein every day. I enjoy those, about 120, let me think, it's about 200 calories for that 42, 43 grams of protein. So I'm enjoying that. And I find myself at this point, after going through all of that, having ran 3 half marathons in less than 3 hours, I couldn't walk. My AFib is all but gone, all but cleared up. And that just blows me away. I still have it. I still have hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, I should say. The growth is still in there. I've cut my meds in half twice over the last year and a half. I've been able to get rid of amiodarone altogether and take significantly less pills than I did before. My back pain is gone. I can go play pool for 6 hours at one time if I wanted to. And I do all the time. We call them marathon sessions. They're my favorite. And you just play game after game after game after game. And I never have to even think about sitting down. Now, sometimes I go sit down out of habit and I have to tell myself, hey, stupid, you don't have to do that anymore. It was so ingrained in me over the years because I had to deal with all these handicaps that I had that were slowing me down from living my life to the fullest. That I was doing it out of rote memory. I was just doing it because that's what I did. And I have to teach myself even today and appreciate that I don't have to do that anymore. So that's why the carnivore diet for me, I don't think I would have had the same success doing it on a keto diet, because if I'd have added carbs into that, I think that I would have been tempted. I don't think I would have had the same success at all on a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet. Or a low-fat diet, or any of those diets. I've done all of that. Well, I haven't done a vegetarian diet, but I've done all of the low-fat diets. I think low-fat is a joke. I think it's a lie perpetrated on us by pharmaceutical companies, by food companies, and by the government, going back to the 1970s. And we'll talk more in depth about this in later podcasts, like I said. But my eyes have been opened. All those miles, thousands and thousands of miles on the road over the last 20 months has resulted in hundreds and hundreds of hours of podcasts. And in those podcasts, I have educated myself at a level that I couldn't imagine. And that has brought me to where I am today. And where am I? I have never felt better, I don't think, in my entire life. Certainly since I broke my back at 19 years old. Certainly since the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy showed up when I was 38 years old. And I feel like those things never happened. I still have to deal with the heart things. I still take a med that slows my heart down. My heart rate doesn't really get up above 120. So there's another thing. All that talk about you got to go running and you got to go get your heart rate up and do those things. I did none of that because I can't. When I go do my marathons, I run 2 minutes and I walk 2 minutes. Run 2 minutes, walk 2 minutes. It's about all my heart will let me do that. At that level, I feel like I'm pushing as hard as I can. So it's not like I'm still not battling through these things. And in the early days, I had to battle them even more significantly and even more painfully. But as I sit here today, I can't believe how good I feel. I have turned back the clock. And when I say I've turned back the clock, I'm not trying to live forever. I'm trying to live as good as I can, as long as I can, right up to the end. I want to be so healthy at 84 years old that my body just says, that's a good run, and I drop dead in my sleep. That's what I'm hoping for. I don't want to be diseased. Sugar comes from sugar. I don't want to lose my mind. Sugar. All that comes from sugar. I'm going to minimize and do everything I can to make sure that I live as complete and full of life and be as small a risk to my family and to my children having to take care of me that I possibly can. I want to be here. My kids are in their early 20s. I want to be here when my grandkids graduate from college. That's my plan. That's what I'm working towards. And so I believe this is my best chance to do that. There's no guarantee. I could get hit by a truck tomorrow. I could die of a heart attack tomorrow. There's no guarantee. But there is a guarantee that you can do everything in your power to put those odds in your favor, to play that stock market with a little bit of inside knowledge, to make sure that you're doing everything you can, which is what I'm doing, everything I can, as I believe it, to make sure that not only do I have a full life, but I'm not a burden to my children, and that I get to live to see not only those grandchildren born, and not only those grandchildren graduate from elementary school and middle school, and go to high school and graduate, and go on to college and graduate. I want the grandpa to be there, and I want to watch that, and I want to see it. I didn't have grandparents when I grew up, so being a grandparent is a big deal for me, and it is incumbent on me as a dad, and it's incumbent on me as a man, I believe, to do everything I can to put myself out there and make that happen. That's why the carnivore diet. That's why the changes to my life on January 1st of 2022. And that's why, as I sit here before you on this first inaugural Common SenseIVORE podcast, to tell you my story and to give you an idea of where I come from and where I'm going. I work out every single day. I walk every single day. I eat the way that I eat every single day. I take a cheat meal every now and then. Everybody knows I go and get a piece of pizza. It's my absolute favorite, about once a month. But generally speaking, 97% of my diet is fat and protein, and I couldn't feel better for it. That's my story. As the Common SenseIVORE podcast continues on into the future, my plan for this podcast is to talk to you guys about what you've done. What are your failures? What are your successes? Like I said, I failed twice trying to start this in 2022. So failure, maybe I didn't say that. I should say I tried twice and I failed both times. So failure is a part of this. So I want to talk to you about your failures. I want to talk to you about your successes. I want to talk to you about huge weight loss, and I want to talk about little weight loss and muscle building and how good you feel. You, just us, regular Joes, talking across the camera. If you've never been on one before, you've never been on a podcast, I want to hear from you. Let's do it. Let's have a conversation, and let's see what we can do to get the word out about what carnivore has done for our lives, what exercise has done for our lives, what changing our overall mental well-being and emotional well-being has meant, our physical well-being, what it's meant, particularly as we get older. But I don't really care, because there's a lot of you fat guys out there at 25 years old that need the same thing that I went and got starting last January 1st, 2022. So that's kind of my idea for the podcast. And then on top of that, I'd like to bring people in that are experts that we can talk to on both sides of it and give us information, and then we can make our own decision on whether or not that's something that we believe. So I'm going to be reaching out to people, some people you've heard about, and if you know them, please share that link. Let them know I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee, just south of Nashville. I live in Franklin, Tennessee, and I want to talk with them and get their feedback on what's happened to me and what's happened to you and what we see in the carnivore diet generally, the keto diet generally, the non-sugar, non-processed food diet generally. I mean, really, if you cut those two things out, that's a great start. And that's what we're going to be about. So look, I need your help. I need you to share. I need you to like it. I know you get asked all the time on these podcasts and these videos, but it really does help us. And comment. Let me know what you think. As the thing gets rolling and we get past this first one, I want to know what you think. I want your thoughts to tell me how you'd like to see this podcast get through. If you know somebody that want to be on there, link them to it. Let them know that we're out here, and definitely subscribe. All of those things together, let's get this thing built up. Opportunities are everywhere. I say it every time. Where does that come from? People ask me all the time. Because I'm the person that says the opportunity, I'm not somebody that falls in love with something that you see. It's an opportunity and it's in front of you and you got to take it. And they're everywhere. But so often we're bogged down in how we feel, and we're bogged down in emotional malaise, and we're bogged down in a mental malaise. And we just can't see past what's in front of us, what the trouble is that we're having, that we miss opportunities as they're presented to us. And I want to change that for so many people. That's how I've built my life, and I want to help you guys build your lives that way. Opportunities are everywhere. You got to go get them, though. They ain't coming to you, and particularly the one that says, go get healthy. 80% of us in America are either fat, obese, diabetic, or pre-diabetic. That's crazy. 80% of us have those 4 problems. We got to fix that. This is the fix for it. You got diabetes, stories are legion about putting that thing into remission. Insulin resistance, all of things, the number of diseases that this thing fixes, and you can go look this up on YouTube, is extraordinary. And I want that for you. It's done that for me on 3 or 4 specific things that have made me feel better and have changed my life. And I want it for you. So I'll say it again, opportunities are everywhere, but y'all got to go get them yourself. Thanks for watching the inaugural Common SenseIVORE podcast. Now, stand up and go for a walk.